So I've set my class a question of a half plus a third, and the most common answer that they have given me is 2/5, which is wrong. The reason this is wrong is they've just added the numerator, which is the top number, and the denominator, the bottom number, to get you 1 plus 1 equals 2, and 2 plus 3 to equal 5. This would be the wrong answer because the main thing of addition that you need is a common denominator, which means the same number on the bottom of each of the fractions. The easiest way you can get a common denominator is by timesing the two denominators together. So 2 times 3 is equal to 6. So 6 would be the number that we put on the bottom. Now the way in which we can get the numerators, the number on the top, is by doing a thing called cross multiplication. Cross multiplication is where you times the top of one by the bottom of the other. So 1 times 3 is equal to 3. And then you also do the same for the other one. So 2 times 1 is 2. And then because we're using addition, we can just add the two of the numbers together. So 3 plus 2 over 6 is 5 over 6, which is obviously different. So not equal to, which is different to 2/5, which is what my class got initially. I think the best way to teach this is by just doing lots and lots of examples. So we could do another example now. If we had instead 1/4, also known as a quarter, plus 2/5, then we just go through exactly the same process. The first thing that we need is the same number on the bottom if we want to do addition. And the easiest way, I said earlier, to do this is by just timesing the numbers together. So 4 times 5 is 20. Now we move on to the numerators, the top half of the fractions. The way that we get the common denominator is by cross multiplication. So timesing the 1 by the 5, and adding 4 times 2, 8, to give us 13 over 20. The mistake of just adding the top and adding the bottom is a very common one, and it comes, I believe, from just having a plus sign here. And up till now, when you're not dealing with fractions, when you see a plus sign, you just add whatever you see around you, really. This clearly doesn't work, and I think that when we go through enough examples, it will become clear. Another falling point, I think, or a stumbling point for fractions would be when we introduce the concept of multiplication with fractions. Because here is a case where you can just times the top and the bottom, so, i.e. timesing 1 by 2 and 4 by 5. The way in which I would try and combat the confusion between whether you are or aren't allowed to times the top and the bottom together like this, or whether you have to use a common denominator, is by, I think, making sure that the students have really grasped the concept of addition in the first lesson, and then by the time they've got that, and they've understood it and they've worked through enough examples and I feel that they're confident in that, I would then move on for a completely separate lesson. I wouldn't do the two concepts in the same lesson because they are two opposing methods. So that's the way in which I would combat the common mistake of adding the top and adding the bottom when it comes to addition of fractions.